Shalaknai Shojri Jessica Black Goji, Gwich'yaa Toghotthele Gwatsan Ihli, Ga Tanan Gwich'in. Shahan Marlene, John DeRocher, Shiti, Bill Black, Shitsu Tza Shitsi, Sarah Tza Isaac John, Gwich'yaa Gwatsan Hisha, Shitsu Tza Shitsi, Marvin Tza Zelda Black, Cloverdale Gwatsan Hisha. Shiki, Aurora, Shaote, Danny, Vajrenko, Gwatsan Hisha. Elders, chiefs, TCC delegates, family, friends, and youth, all my relations. My name is Jessica Black. My family is from Gwich'yaa, Fort Yukon, and I grew up in Toghotthele, Nenana. My mother is Marlene John DeRochers, and my father is Bill Black. My grandparents are the late Sarah and Isaac John from Fort Yukon and the late Marvin and Zelda Black from Cloverdale, California. I am the great-granddaughter of Julia Peter and Margaret John. My daughter is Aurora, and my partner is Danny Lee from Arctic Village. I am honored to stand before you, and I come in a good and humble way. Can you cue up the PowerPoint too, please? With me, I bring my ancestors, and I speak with a focus on the next 7 generations. I haven't gotten here on my own, and it is my hope that my speech honors all those who have helped me to get to this point in my life, and I continue to honor their legacy of leadership. You can hit the next one. My story started long before I was born. My relatives on both my mother and father's side were hard workers. My mother's family came from Fort Yukon, but that's really a misnomer because they were people of the land, growing up and working hard to survive, moving from place to place. Let's see. My great-grandmothers raised 16 and 11 children respectively. My family on my mother's side were fishermen and women, sewers, spiritual people, and helpers. On my father's side, my great-grandparents worked as railroaders, seamstresses, in the garment workers union, butchers, and grocery men. My father's parents both worked as weather observers in Alaska on St. Paul Island during World War II, then various regions of the country. I was born into loving families who both worked hard to survive and provide a good life for their children and future generations, which included me. My mother was the oldest of 7 children, and I was her last, and she would say her brattiest child. My parents met on the banks of the Yukon River, and well, the rest is history. I just had to say that for my parents. After the first 3 years of life living in Fort Yukon, my family moved to Toghotthele, Nenana, where my family and I were graciously and lovingly adopted by the community, and we made a good life there. I would like to thank and pay my respects to the people of Nenana for helping to raise me and shape me into the person I am today. The work that I do and the passion and drive that I have very much is shaped by early childhood experiences in both communities. Some of my earliest memories, can you put on the next, I guess? Yeah. Some of my earliest memories consist of times with my great-grandmothers in Fort Yukon, fish camp on the Yukon River, singing and dancing our native songs with our group from Nenana, and time out on the land with my family, and in the Bay Area, where diverse cultures from all parts of the world resided, instilling in me a love of people from all walks of life. These early childhood experiences ingrained in me my Dene values, which provided a strong foundation from which I built my life. My values rooted me to this beautiful land and people and helped me weather the many storms that I had in my life, allowing me to bounce back and remain strong, rooted, and grounded. These values: care and provision for the family, self-sufficiency and hard work, family relations and unity, love for children, sharing, and caring and humor. These early childhood experience and memories also have always reminded me and kept me focused on a vision of wellness for my people. I always knew deep within me that we have everything that we need inside of us as Alaska Native and tribal people to be well and to return to the center of sacredness. I have committed my personal and professional life to this endeavor. In my current capacity as faculty at UAF, I have the great privilege of working for and alongside our Alaska Native people and communities through teaching, research, and service. Specifically, I serve on a couple of big research grants that are working to document the various ways in which our Alaska Native people experience wellness and exhibit resilience. For example, the Alaska Native Collaborative Hub for Resilience Research, that's such a mouthful, ANCHOR, is a 5-year, $4.25 million grant to help Alaska Native communities use the most effective ways to prevent suicide through resilience and cultural practices. It was one of 3 awarded nationwide by the National Institutes of Health. Another project is the Indigenizing Salmon Management Project, where a team of researchers, including myself, are working alongside organizations such as the Hunting and Fishing Task Force, tribal leaders, and fish commissions to document the breadth of knowledge and practices that exist within our communities, especially as it pertains to managing our precious salmon, caribou, and water relatives, and showing that though we've been disenfranchised from this very system, we have 10,000 plus years of experience managing it. That is awesome. The fish, the caribou, water are here because we took care of them. This love of research started during my doctoral program at Washington University in St. Louis. For my doctoral dissertation, I examined the relationship between governance and well-being in the Yukon Flats. I worked alongside the Council of Athabascan Tribal Government's Natural Resources Department to create my questions because I wanted to rewrite the narrative of bad research that's traditionally been conducted on Native people to instead working aside Native people. I also wanted to collect data that was useful, and the questions that we co-created helped to frame what was most important for my people: governance and well-being. It would allow my people to use the data in different ways, such as seeking funding that would support the integration of Indigenous values and ways of knowing into programming, thus focusing on prevention. Specifically in my interviews, I asked the participants, what does well-being mean? What does governance mean? What does this relationship look like? What became very clear, and you'll see from my slides, is that an Indigenous vision and definition of wellness is based on respect for oneself and on a focus of working together and taking care of one another at the community level. This definition was very different than mainstream empirical literature. It was definitely an indigenized definition of well-being. The interviews also captured another important finding, which is probably not news to most of you, but it is documented now, and that is our traditional forms of governance were enough, and they helped us to survive for 10,000 years. And by returning to these traditional forms of governance, we can exercise our values every single day. And what is even more awesome is nobody's kept out of the circle. Lastly, what also became clear, and again, no surprise to most of you, is that hunting, fishing, and gathering is of utmost importance. It influences governance, and it influences well-being. By knowing how to hunt, fish, and gather, you are able to exercise your traditional values. You are also motivated to serve your people in the capacity as a tribal council member, as a tribal court judge, because you are grounded and connected not just to your people, but to the land which gives your people wellness. By knowing how to hunt, fish, and gather, you are the best stewards of the land. Thus, you effectively manage resources and ensure there's a healthy ecosystem for the future. You are empowered because you have a strong Native identity as provider, caretaker, connector. All this leads to well-being, both for you and the entire community. When you catch, you share. When you see those who don't have the means to hunt and gather, you share. We are one, so what happens to the least of us happens to all of us. Thus, protecting our hunting, fishing, and gathering way of life is imperative. Like the story of my childhood, being on the land not only puts food on the table, but instills in each one of us a deep sense of purpose, spirituality, and grounds us in our values. There is no replacement. This is why it's so important to support the work of the Yukon River Intertribal Fish Commission and the Hunting and Fishing Task Force, among the many other efforts that are standing at the front lines each day, warriors protecting what is sacred. The theme of this year's convention, Working Together for a Stronger Future, is uplifting. It gives us all the assurance that despite our challenges, we have a hopeful future, and I firmly believe this. So what will it take for us to realize this stronger future? I want to take you through an exercise, a thinking journey, but I don't want you to fall asleep, okay? So I'm going to take you through a series of statements that start with, let's imagine. Once I say let's imagine, I want you all to close your eyes and imagine what I'm telling you. I want you to pay attention to what you see, how you feel, what you hear. Pay attention to your emotions. Okay, so let's start. So close your eyes. Imagine you are driving down the river, sitting in a boat, and passing fish camps all along the way. The children are playing on the banks, happy and free. There are smoke houses full of Gwich'aa salmon, and there are extended families waving at you. You and those you are traveling with stop at one or two fish camps and visit, have a cup of tea, and listen and tell stories. Then the men from the village are all busy working hard, checking nets, checking fish wheels, cutting fish, getting wood, sharing their catch. You notice how healthy and strong they are. They are not in the village, but out on the land where they shine and they guide the family. The women are putting up the last of the fish. They are cleaning the fish table and cooking food over the fire. They are happy and smiling, laughing. The elders are looking at the fish cache, making sure everything looks just right. The fish, the smoke, they are sitting in their comfy chairs, telling stories, guiding everything. They are in their rightful place of honor. The children are playing along the bank, throwing rocks, laughing, jumping in the slough. It's almost time for dinner, but they don't want to come eat. They want to keep playing and having fun. They are screaming with delight. The sun is starting to set, and so you get back in the boat with a full belly and a full heart, smelling like smoke with the midnight sun shining on your face. Okay, open your eyes. How do you feel? What did you see? What did you hear? Just let that soak in. Okay, another let's imagine. Close your eyes. Our children are happy, healthy, and safe. You decide to visit your local school in your community. Children are buzzing around, happy, healthy, well-rested. There are elders and parents in the classroom alongside teachers, helping, teaching, and welcomed in the school. You say hello to the children, and they answer you in Tanana, in Gwich'in, in Benti Kanaga. You ask the teacher, what are the students saying? And they too answer you in their native language. You are surprised, but pleasantly surprised, and your heart starts to swell. This is what you've dreamed of, our children speaking our language, happy, healthy, and safe. You look at the walls in the classroom and hallways, and there are pictures of elders, local leaders, and Alaska Native values. In fact, the rules of the school and classroom are based on Alaska Native values. At every community, children and their parents perform their traditional songs and dances. The little kids belt out their songs and are dressed in beautiful regalia made by their family and community members. No children are left out, even those who are not being raised by their family members. The school is tribally run, and thus the tribal members feel deep commitment to success and are always there to ensure the tribal vision is reflected in what the children are learning. Okay, open your eyes. What did you see? How did you feel? What did you hear? Okay, one more. Close your eyes. Let's imagine you walk into your community tribal hall for your tribal meeting. Everyone is sitting in a circle. The meeting starts with a blessing, preceded by a check-in from participants. A feather or talking stick is passed around for people to share. There's adequate time for community input. When contentious issues arise, people stick it out together. The value of respect guides the meetings. All voices contribute to decision-making, even children. Children are asked, what do you want for your village? And the tribal policy and work carried out reflects those wishes. The informal or traditional leaders in the village who teach singing and dancing, who make soup for potlatch, who dig graves, who care for elders, who open the gym for kids, who teach our children, they're all consulted, just the way it used to be in our villages. So every single voice is heard and makes the community stronger. Okay, open your eyes. What did you hear? What did you feel? What did you think? So, what will it take for us to get there? Together, there is no other way. We must support each other, protect each other, and keep our families safe. Collaboration with our other organizations doing meaningful work that helps us as tribal people heal from historical trauma, reawaken our languages and cultural practices, and the leadership within us, such as the work as First Alaskans Institute is doing all around the state, tapping into the warrior spirit from the smallest child to the eldest elder. Follow the knowledge and leadership of our elders who have paved the way, asking them to guide us, doing what they say, and standing back up when we make mistakes. Through exercising our sovereignty in all ways, managing our lands, exercising and running strong tribal courts, running our own schools, taking over child protection, and demanding consultation. Supporting effective institutions which tap into our cultural values as the base of governing, such as the Fish Commission, the Hunting and Fishing Task Force, tribal courts, and ICWA programs. Integrating cultural practices into our communities. We don't need to wait. We cannot wait. Our language, our land, our elders need us to start now. This will go a long ways towards curbing challenges in the future. And then by protecting our land, animals, and water. We don't get a second chance to do that. We see what happens when we don't. There is examples from all over the world. We have one of the greatest, last intact wild fisheries in the world. We can't ever lose that. Are you committed to this vision? Will you stand with me? Will you stand? Will you stand with me to keep our children safe and ensure they are grounded in their culture, language, and family histories? Will you stand with me to protect with all our hearts our hunting, fishing, and gathering rights and do what's best to ensure they are there for the next 7 generations? Okay. Will you stand with me to restore our elders to their rightful place of leadership at the center of our worlds? Will you stand with me to reclaim and reinstitute our traditional forms of governance where our values guide every decision? Will you stand with me to protect our land, protect the animals and water, knowing that we can never replace them? Yes. Will you stand with me to the sacred way of being, of living, of togetherness? Working together, we can achieve this vision and create a stronger future. Masit cho shalak nai.